Hello and welcome to Byjus Exam Prep IAS. I welcome you all to the Hindu newspaper analysis for today. Also, as you all know, tomorrow marks the beginning of Byjus Exam Prep IAS live All India mock test series for Prelims IAS 2023. I wish you all the very best to all of those who have registered for the test series, and I really hope that all of you have registered. First test on the 6th of November tomorrow 9:30 a.m. and the second test that is on 13th of November is free of cost for everyone. The link for the complete schedule and all of the details of the test series is given in the description of the video. You can give this test online and offline as well. Especially if you're in Delhi, I request you to give this test in Delhi, and after the test you can meet our teachers live who will be there to discuss the entire question paper and also take all your doubts. Now let's begin with the very first article from the front page of the Hindu newspaper about a very interesting and important judgment by the Supreme Court of India. The Supreme Court of India, using its extraordinary powers under Article 142, has said that all the employees can opt in for the EPFO pension scheme. Now, in order to understand this entire issue, I want to take you a step back to what exactly is the EPFO pension scheme and what is the issue exactly here. So try and understand this. Basically, as you know, when you work for an organization which has over 20 employees, you would have to contribute from your income a part of it that will go to Employees Provident Fund, that is a EPF. So the government of India in 1995 started this scheme called Employee Pension Scheme. Now what was this scheme? Try and understand. Of your basic income, 12% is contributed to the Employee Provident Fund. I contribute 12% from my basic salary. My employer, that is, my company, will also contribute 12% from my behalf. Now, in 1995, the government started a scheme called the Employee Pension Scheme, under which out of this 12% that I contributed, out of the 12% that the employee contributed, 8.33% will now go to this pension fund. So that once I retire at the age of 58 years, I should be given a pension after I am not earning a salary. That is the entire idea. To give social security to the people after they retire at the age of 58 so that they can earn a pension. And the contribution for this pension has to be from the side of the employee and the company itself. Now, let's go back a bit. The government of India, when they first started the scheme, they had said that obviously we cannot give unlimited pension. So they said that maximum pensionable salary would be 6,500 only. That is, maximum salary on the basis of which your pension will be calculated will be 6,500. After that, the government of India in 2014 actually changed this. In 2014, the government introduced a new law. They said that from now onwards, the maximum pensionable salary will be 15,000. Meaning that if you earn more than 15,000, even then, the pension that will be given to you will be calculated on the basis of 15,000 as the basic salary. Because see, usually what happens, the more that you earn at the time of your retirement, the more pension you get. So if a person is earning 2 lakh rupees at the time of retirement, or 3 lakh rupees or 1 lakh rupees, their pension will be very high. But under this scheme, the government said the maximum pension that you will get will be calculated on this 15,000 limit only and not more than that. On the other hand, if there is an employee who wants a higher pension, who does not want his pension to be calculated only on 15,000 rupees, then the employee has to contribute more money, obviously. The government is saying you cannot just contribute money on the basis of 15,000 rupees and then ask for a pension on the basis of 2 lakh rupees. That is not really sensible. So the government under the scheme had said that now if someone wants to get a higher pension, they should contribute 1.16% of their salary more than 15,000. So let's say I'm earning 1 lakh rupees. So above 15,000, 85,000 I earn more. Out of this 85,000, 1.16% I should now contribute to the government. Only then I will get a higher pension. Otherwise, my pension will be calculated only on 15,000 rupees per month. Also, when the government introduced this change in 2014, the government gave 4 months of time to the employees. That if you want to switch to this higher slab of 15,000 and if you want to have a higher pension, then you can switch to this scheme, but within 4 months. All of this was challenged in the court. Why was this challenge? Number one, the employees said that why should we have to pay extra on our salary? The employee pension scheme was that whatever your last salary was, that is how our pension should be calculated. So we want a pension as per our last salary only. We don't want the pension to be calculated on 15,000 per month, but also we don't want to pay anything extra. Also, many people did not switch within these 4 months, so they also challenged this. Now, what the Supreme Court has said is the following. Number one, Supreme Court has removed this 4 month time limit. Supreme Court has said that no, this will not happen. From today onwards, we are giving 6 more months to people if they want to enroll in the new version of the scheme. Secondly, the Supreme Court said that this higher contribution of 1.16, this should not be allowed. They struck this down. This has come as a negative news for the government and for the EPFO, because this means that now they have to give out more money in the form of pension without taking any extra funds from the salary of the employees. This is the outcome of this decision. If you go back to 2014 amendment, as I said, the maximum cap of pension was increased from 6,500 to rupees 15,000. But in order for people to switch from here to here, they were only given a time period of 4 months back then. Now the Supreme Court has said that anyone can switch to this and the time has not run out for any of them. Now, in order to understand this scheme better, I want to give you some basic details. As I said, this social security scheme was launched in 1995. Under this scheme, the provident fund contribution that you make, that is 12%. Out of that 12%, 8.33% will be diverted to the employee pension scheme. Government will also contribute about 1.16% of the employee's salary. Also, the Employee Provident Fund scheme is mandatory for employees who have a basic wage of 15,000 per month or more. Also, if you look at the timeline of how exactly has the scheme changed, you will see starting from 1952, a lot of changes have been introduced. It was in 1952 that we had the Employee Provident Fund and Miscellaneous Provisions Act, under which the government launched the EPFO, that is the Provident Fund Organization. The simple idea was that people who earn their salary should also contribute something in this particular account, so that at a later stage of their life they can actually get this money with some interest that they earn. In 1995, the government came up with the pension scheme and they said 8.33% of the employee contribution will be diverted to the pension fund. Also, this was initially applicable to those who get basic wage up to 6,500. Now that is up to 15,000 rupees. In September 2014, EPFO amended this act to increase the contribution to 8.33% of a maximum of 15,000 per month. As I said, irrespective of your salary, you can only give that much. Also, the amendment said that those who want to take the benefits of the pension on their full salary will not be just calculated on the basis of their last year's salary. It will be calculated on the basis of average salary of their last 5 years, and that is how the calculation will be done for their pension amount. Supreme Court has now made changes to this particular law. The second article that we have for you is about the COP27. We have already discussed multiple articles on the same topic. The COP27 of UNFCCC, as you know, begins on Sunday. That is in Egypt. The authors here are making a point of view that while discussing about climate change, while discussing about the global average temperature rise, we are ignoring the fact that the developed nations have never taken the responsibility of the wrongs that they have done to the environment. We also have to see it from the point of view of energy consumption per head in the entire world. The author says that despite the goals that were set by nations across the world in Glasgow last year, to have net zero emissions by 2050 in most cases, we are still not on track to limit the global rise in temperature to 1.5 degrees Celsius, and we will overshoot it very, very easily. The reason being that the global energy is actually concentrated in developed nations. Most of the developing nations are energy wise very, very poor. And when you have poor consumption of energy, you will see that all the other social indicators are very, very similar. For example, the average per capita energy use in the richest 20 nations is 85 times higher than that of the 20 poorest nations. Also, if you see the numbers, for example, of the child mortality rate, of maternal mortality rate, of education level, all of that is in proportion to the energy consumption levels, be it sub-Saharan Africa, which has some of the poorest nations in the world, or be it the OECD nations, some of the richest nations in the world. The more power that you consume, the better are your social indicators, the better is your health, etc. The lesser power that you get as per capita income, the more problems that you face in the society. Thus, energy inequality or power inequality has been a biggest concern. That is why when the developed nations come out and tell the developing nations, no, 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 you should not harm the environment, no, 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 you should not produce so much energy, they should actually look in the mirror and see where they are and then give any sermon. They should also understand the fact that it is because of the developed nations itself that we have such a situation where we have so much pollution, where we have the global temperatures that are increasing, as compared to giving this lecture to the developing nations. Also, in 2022, as you know, due to high inflation across the entire globe, increasing prices of food and energy, the developing nations are in a very, very bad state altogether. If you look at some of the numbers of the developed nations, the situation will be even more clear. In USA, 81% of primary energy is still coming from fossil fuels. Europe has 76% of its energy consumption from fossil fuels only. Now, they were playing very smart when in July 2022, the European Union voted that natural gas for some uses will be considered as green and sustainable. While if you see the reality, natural gas is a very, very heavy contributor to CO2, which is a very potent greenhouse gas. So just because you want to consume natural gas and you have supply of natural gas from Russia, you are saying that it is a green fuel. And the ones that others are using is not a green fuel. That is the height of hypocrisy that is being seen amongst the developed nations. Even if you see the coal consumption in 2022 this year, it has increased in EU, it has increased in US as well because of the energy instability because of the Ukraine-Russia war. So they are in no way to actually give these lectures to developing nations when the developed nations themselves have done very little to actually ensure that our environment gets healed up. I'm sure all of you are very, very well aware of the devastating impact of climate change, and I don't need to repeat it, but just to give you certain facts, the increase in global temperature would lead to a huge, huge number of problems, including warmer water, flooding, pollution of many kinds, air pollution, and also increasing cost of living because of famine and hunger. Then, other facts also include that by 2050, our population of the world will also increase drastically and might reach 9.6 billion, meaning that the resources of our planet required to sustain this population will also be much, much more. In that situation, we have to understand that if we don't change our lifestyle and become more sustainable, there is no safe future for us. Now, this is a graph that I wanted to share with you. This is a graph of some of the nations which are the highest consumers of energy. Now, this graph shows you per capita. Remember, this is per capita only. This is not overall. This is per capita primary energy consumption by source. So, if you see where US is located right now, 76,000 plus kilowatt hour, and where India is located, 7,000. Meaning that an average American consumes over 10 times more energy as compared to an average Indian. Not just this, for all their lecture on using renewable energy, going green, see how much energy is coming from coal and from oil in the US itself. So countries such as US, Germany, they still have a very, very high proportion of the energy coming from oil and gas. So at a time when they're actually asking the developing nations to cut down on their emissions, to cut down on their development, it is time for developed nations also to look into what they are doing. The next article is a sad news based on the recent passing away of Elaben Bhatt. Now, Elaben Bhatt, I don't know if you're aware of her or not, was actually the one who pioneered one of India's most innovative and most well thought out initiatives for women in India called SEWA. SEWA stands for Self Employed Women's Association. She passed away on 2nd of November. She was very, very well known in the social work community. In fact, she had been given multiple awards for her work towards women empowerment in the country. She had won the Padma Bhushan, the Magsaysay Award, the Indira Gandhi Sadbhavna Award. She was even a member of the parliament and a member of the planning commission as well. All her life was dedicated towards ensuring good employment for women, their empowerment, ensuring that women get equal opportunities, they earn money with respect, and they also develop skills of different types. She believed that if we have to provide sustainable employment to women, we have to ensure that they take part in production and distribution as well. Just giving them a few skills, asking them to sit at home will not really create the kind of jobs that we require. She also very famously gave the 100-mile principle. 100-mile principle is very similar to what Mahatma Gandhi had said. If you have read teachings of Mahatma Gandhi, his Swadeshi teachings, Mahatma Gandhi had also said that every neighbor should take the responsibility of providing for the other neighbor's need. For example, if I have to buy rice or if I have to buy wheat, then I should not go very, very far just to buy them at a better price. I should buy them from my neighborhood. And similarly, my neighbors should buy whatever they need from me so that we can have a local sustainable economy. Similar is the principle given by her called the 100-mile principle. This simply says that you should use products and services primarily which are produced within a 100-mile radius of you. Don't order something from outside the country. You can actually have a good sustainable economy if you follow this 100-mile principle. She also had the Grahini theory of international relations, which said that elimination of poverty, deprivation, etc. is a requirement to establish a peaceful society which is free of violence. So if you want a society where violence doesn't exist, if you want a country which is not poor, you first have to start by ensuring that in the domestic sphere of life, women are safe and they are respected. Now, if you look at the SEWA organization pioneered by her, there are a lot of great initiatives that the SEWA organization undertook. For example, in 1974, SEWA Bank was established to provide small loans to poor women. It was at a time when 94% of women who were working in India were actually employed in informal sector because they did not have any of their own enterprise. This initiative was in fact recognized by ILO also as a microfinance movement. In 2008, the Organized Social Workers Security Act, then the National Rural Livelihood Mission, etc. All these initiatives were taken by Government of India, but they were actually being suggested and they were implemented well by SEWA organization only. There is also another story associated with SEWA. For example, they have empowered their women so much that many of them have actually become great entrepreneurs. For example, there is a clothing line, the name of which is Hanseba. Hanseba was actually one of the artists associated with SEWA. Now, this Hanseba line has actually collaborated with international designers to take Gujarat's ethnic embroidery throughout the world. It right now has showrooms in many parts of the world as well. It is sold in Delhi, Mumbai, Europe, Australia as well. This is a photo of that Hanseba museum which you can see. It has a lot of art and craft work. The same actually is being sold throughout the world, which again is an amazing example of women empowerment undertaken by SEWA. The next article that we have here is from China. As you know, just like US has the GPS, India has NAVIC or IRNSS. China also has its own homegrown satellite navigation system called Beidou. Now, the main difference between India's NAVIC and this Beidou is, while India's NAVIC is mainly focused on India and 1500 kilometers from India, this Beidou navigation system actually has a global coverage like the GPS. So now what China wants is, China wants as many nations across the world to actually use its own navigation system in place of GPS. Now the Google Maps that you use or any other such app that you use actually uses the GPS technology which is owned by America and the American military. China wants to replace that as a show of soft power to actually see how many countries can actually switch towards the Chinese side as compared to the US. Since 2020, China has been in talks with Pakistan, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh to adopt the Beidou navigation system. Their system has 30 satellites right now, and as per the Chinese government, it is being used in half of the world's nations. For example, Saudi Arabia is using Beidou to survey and map vehicles in the desert. Tajikistan is using it to monitor their dams and lakes. Lebanon is using it at the Beirut port. And in Burkina Faso in Africa, it is being used to survey and for construction of hospitals. As expected, The two countries which are the closest to China, Russia and Pakistan, have become the significant hubs of Beidou, where it is being used in very, very large numbers. In fact, China and Russia have signed a deal to ensure that their two systems, so Russia's navigation system is called GLONASS. So they have a deal that their two navigation systems will be interoperable, means they will be able to work on same devices. One single device can actually have input from both of these and can become even more precise as compared to the other navigation systems. As you can imagine, Pakistan in 2014 became the first foreign country to have a Beidou network. China now wants to expand it to the ASEAN nations as well, and African and Caribbean nations also. Within China, they have been using it for a lot of applications like guiding drones, autonomous cars, agriculture, etc. Now, this is more of a show of soft power than economic move to earn money. As more and more countries depend on your critical technology, you can collect a lot of data from these countries. Also, when any other nation is so dependent on your technology, including their own military, you know that they cannot make any move against you. So expanding these kind of technologies throughout the world is a way for China to ensure that their status of being the hegemon, of being the global superpower actually takes a big step ahead. Now, I'm sure all of you have read about India's NAVIC or IRNSS. The major difference being that our NAVIC system is focused on India plus 1500 kilometers and is not and does not give any global coverage. See, the simple logic is the more satellites that you actually have in the system, the more will be your coverage area. While China's Beidou has 30 satellites, 30, India's IRNSS only has 7 satellites. Now, there have been talks by ISRO that we will be expanding this system, sending more satellites and increasing the coverage area, but it remains to be seen. So far, the other nations that have similar kind of systems is GPS. As you know, this is actually being followed throughout the world. Then we have the GLONASS system run by Russia, operated by Roscosmos. We have Galileo, which is initiated by the European Space Agency, and also we have a system operated by the Japanese government as well called Kozai Zenith Satellite System. So apart from the one that is run by India, most other navigation systems that we have are actually global navigation systems, while India's is more focused on our Indian mainland. The next article that we have here takes us back to the same question of voting rights for the NRI population. Now, as you know, India has the largest diaspora population in the world. Diaspora means Indian origin people living somewhere outside India. We have about 1.35 crore Indians who are living across the entire world. Means they are officially Indian citizens, so they should have the right to vote. Now, although they can come back to vote on the day of the voting and they'll be allowed to vote, but you also know someone sitting in Canada, US, Australia, Middle East will not just come back to vote for one single day. Yes, you like democracy, but you don't like democracy so much that you will come all the way back just to put one vote. This is where there have been a lot of talks about how can we actually give voting rights to NRIs without them having to come back all the way. Now, certain initiatives have been taken in this regard, but they have not been fulfilled. For example, in 2019 Lok Sabha elections, about 1 lakh NRI voters registered, but only 25,000 of them came to vote, which in itself is not a very small number. But if you actually see the total number of Indians living abroad, this number is very, very, very minute. In the last Lok Sabha, there was a bill passed which allowed the NRIs to vote via postal ballot, to send their vote by post. But again, the Lok Sabha got dissolved and the next Lok Sabha did not have this bill. One other option that many people are suggesting is electronically transmitted postal ballot system. It is a similar kind of a system which is given to the service voters in India as well. Now, this is a postal ballot system only, but it is transferred electronically. So you don't have to post it by a speed post, etc. You can just post it electronically and it can be downloaded by the returning officer of the constituency and your vote will be counted. This can be a way forward to actually have NRIs also vote. The other options include having proxies, but the problem with proxies is that you are asking someone else to vote on your behalf. Now, how do you know the person is voting on the same candidate that you wanted to vote? Also, at the end of the day, right to vote is a secret right. So you should not be forced to tell anyone else who did you vote for. And with this proxy system, you actually are forcing people to tell others who are you voting for. So the best idea to go forward right now seems to be the electronically transmitted postal ballot system. Now, as I said, this has been developed mainly for the service voters, and it is a two-layer system using which it is very, very difficult to actually cheat or have any duplication. So there is a OTP pin that is given to the voter, and also there is a QR code that is involved here. So the entitled voters can actually cast their vote electronically wherever they are, doesn't matter. And they require the OTP to mainly download this encrypted ballot. Only when they are able to get the correct OTP, they can download it, and a pin is required to actually print it and then deliver it back electronically. So this has been a fail-proof system, at least so far. But the one other point that we actually have to understand here is that while the government is more focused on giving voting rights to NRIs, people who are outside India, we should also not forget that within India, there are so many people who actually migrate within India in different states for studies, for job, etc. They also can't come back to their city just to vote. And the government has been ignoring their right to vote. There have been a lot of talks about allowing the NRIs to vote, that is good. But why not actually have the migrant workers first get all this right to vote, make it easier for them to vote without coming back? But many people say that this is because the NRI lobby contributes more to the government funds and they are a top priority for the government. But this is sad, and the government should ideally focus on domestic migrant laborers as well. These are the important articles from the Hindu newspaper today. Now a couple of practice questions. Number one, do you think the government is correct in prioritizing giving voting facility to NRIs over the domestic migrant workers? Give suitable reasons. Second, ensuring global energy equality needs to be the first step towards fighting against climate change. Elaborate. Both these questions have to be answered within 250 words each. Thank you so much for watching the video. All the very best for your very first mock test tomorrow for IAS 2023 Prelims test series. Goodbye.